Hey everybody, this is David at Barnyard Bees. Listen to that sound. You can just sit here all day. Some days I'll sit up here and just sit here on the ground beside him and just listen to that noise and that traffic coming in. Okay, today what I want to talk about is winter preparation for your bees, and the best thing that you can do to ensure or to help that your bees make it through the winter. But first, I want to announce the winners. We had 4 $25 drawings. Caitlin Allen, Edna Kyle, Pam Oldham, Terry Stanberry. Those are the 4 $25 winners of our gift cards. Thank you so much for entering. We had more people, probably, honestly, at least 3 times more people come in the store that day than ever has in any of our bee chat.
Light on in the building. I got an out building. It's got 2 skylights. Yeah. Is this being this light in here? Yeah. Oh, do you want a card bag? If you got 700 in, that'd be good. You need 200 in. This time of year, you're not going to have a problem. The problem you're going to have is later in March or April or May. If it's warm enough in March, but usually April or May, where you're not going to see any moths, but then I'll be using my frame. Exactly.
This is record breaking. It did excellent. We was blown away at how many people come in the store. We couldn't believe it. We was absolutely floored by how many people come in the door. And even when it slowed down after 12 and 1 o'clock, and then it was just like normal traffic of our coffee bee chat right up until closing time. So it did amazing. And then just one other thing before we get started is now the coffee bee chat, a lot of people come in and they got some really good prices for our equivalent to our Black Friday in-store sale. Now starting this Friday will be our online sale, and it'll go Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. If you didn't get a chance to come to a coffee bee chat, check online. We got some fabulous sales online that day, so check that out. Don't forget about it. Pass the video along. So now let's get on to our video of what you need to do to get your bees through the winter. Okay, I'm out here at the beehives, and there's 3 very important things you need to assure to prepare your bees for the winter. And let's get into this hive here. This is a small nuke here. Not a lot of bees in there, but it's got a little cluster, not too bad. I mean, it's not a whole lot in this. This is kind of one of the smaller ones. But these right here, coming out of winter, these things will increase like crazy. Now, the 3 things that you want to do to assure your bees get through the winter, well, actually 4. First is make sure that you've already done your mite treatments. You know, prior to I like to go back 3 weeks past before your first frost and do your mite treatments. Make sure at this point you're pretty much mite free, or as mite free as possible. Now, I know there's really no such thing as mite free, but your count's very, very, very low, as low as possible. Now, having said that, the other 3 things that you need to assure is that you do give them a little bit of extra insurance with some dry sugar is one thing. Adequate ventilation is another thing, and to put your reducer on the front is the 3rd thing. Now, be careful. Even though, see, we use these hive top feeders, and that's the ones where we have the Barnyard Bee Rapid Feeder in. And the way these work, let's hold it up here where you can see it. It has a vent hole on each side of the feeder, and it'll also have a vent hole through the top. Now, those bees will regulate the amount of flow. Every hive's different. And I will show you this hive right here, for example. Okay, see the See the vent where they've properlized it shut a little bit? They do that to regulate how much airflow is coming in. So they know to restrict it some, just like a damper on a wood stove. They know how to open and close. They set it, of course, and it's permanent for the winter, but they know how much flow they need in that hive. And another thing, when you put a reducer on, what I like to do with these Nucs, and I'll put one here in the front here to show you, just for an example. I just usually get a block of wood like this and put like this. Now I'm gonna have to readjust that because the hole is way too small. So what I like to do is to have, here in the south at least, here in the south, in North Georgia, is to have about an inch, at least an inch. That right there is too small. And the reason it's too small, yes, it'll keep them warm, but it doesn't give enough draft going up to carry the moisture out. Be careful. I've learned this by experience. I've lost bees that had moisture in the hive because I've reduced it too small. Inch minimum, inch and a half maximum for a 5-frame nuc. Now, with a 8-frame or a 10-frame, it can be pretty much about the same, about an inch, inch and a half, and depending on the area that you're in, you'll just have to play with that number and see how much moisture that you accumulate. You're better off to have too much ventilation, because like I said, the bees can always go back and close that off a little bit. But if you have too little, they can't open it up. So remember that. That's very important. So I'll adjust that reducer here in a minute, and we'll make it just a little bit bigger. Now the second thing is dry sugar. Now here's how we do it here. Now I understand, and people have told me, and I guess I can understand that in the far up north, it's hard to use this as a sugar feeder. Now some people may debate that too. I don't know. This is just what people have been telling me up north, that their bees, it's hard for them to break cluster to come up and feed in this. Well, here in the south, we have huge advantage over a lot of beekeepers because we have cleansing flights that last all winter long. These bees have plenty of opportunity to come up and eat this sugar here. So it just depends where you're at in the country. I mean, you may experiment and try it a little bit, but here, you know, this is a single. This is a single deep. Going through the winter. I do this every single winter. I don't double them up. This is it. 5 frames going through the winter, just like that. But you got to make sure the conditions are right and everything's good. So what I do, I use the hive top feeder, and I'll put about half a bag of this. This is a 4-pound bag of sugar, and I'll put about half of that in there. And then that half a bag will just be perfect amount for them. Now, what they do, see how it's dry and powdery? They won't touch it right now. They usually don't start touching it till sometime in January. As the moisture comes up, this also acts like a sponge. This dry sugar, as the moisture comes up, and I'll put a lid on top of this. There's a lid that goes on top, because you pull your cup out, and you'll fill it up with sugar, and you put your lid on to keep your bees from getting out. So that's the next step I do. They'll condensate on top of that lid, and it'll drip down in that sugar, and it'll make it like a hard cake. And come about, you know, mid-January into February, that it's really hard, and they start feeding on it. And they really don't need it up until that point anyway. So now the second thing you can do is, okay, what I like to do, I use those paper towels that tear in half. And it makes it perfect for a nuc, at least. Now what I do, I take 2 of them, and I'll lap one over top of the other where it'll fit. And what I do, I don't cover the edges here. You see the edges right here, or on each end. I make sure they're left open. That's for ventilation. You do not want to cover all that up. I did that one year, and I killed some bees that way. Just letting you know by experience, it happened to me. I closed it completely off, and the paper towel suffocated the bees. Actually the condensation dripped on the bees and killed them. So don't cut off your ventilation. Make sure you're back. You can even be back past where your where your end bars are, just a little bit on each side to give them that flow coming up. So that's another way you can do. You can now with this, it's good to have a shim. Some people put like a 1-inch shim here on top, all the way across, and then they'll pour their sugar. That way, when you put your feeder on here, it won't be smashed down, and it gives it that little bit of headspace that you need. So that's 2 ways of feeding your bees. Some people prefer that method with a paper towel because they're further up north and the bees don't have to move as much. Now, it'd have to be, to me, I'll tell you my opinion, it would have to be pretty cold for them, because even if you're a double deep, in the north where they're a double deep, and that paper towel's laying up on top, when you're this close already, I mean, the bees, it's this versus this. So it's not a whole lot that they'll be moving using this hive top feeder, but I'm just going by what people's tell me in the deep north to use some caution with that. Just, you know, maybe experiment with 1 or 2 hives with these hive top feeders and see how well they work for you. Maybe that just that little bit of a distance makes all the difference in the world, maybe. I don't know. I don't raise bees up north, so I can't really elaborate on that too much. So that's the things that you need to do to prep your bees for winter. And another thing, of course, is keep up with the dry pollen feed. A lot of people debate that and say, no, they don't need it. But the thing is, it's an equal balance when it comes to these bees. You got to have an equal balance. If you did your homework and you did what you're supposed to do throughout the year to ensure that your bees have enough honey storage going into the winter, then that feeding that pollen is no problem, because the pollen will increase their population. It'll make that queen lay more. Your population will increase. And if you don't have honey supplies or enough storage, yes, you can kill your bees. You'll starve them out. But that's what I'm saying. Make sure you do this from the beginning, you know, going into goldenrod. Check and see how much goldenrod you had pulled in. And make sure that you left enough honey for your bees. If you didn't, get to feed them and compensate, feeding the 2-to-1 sugar ratio late in the year to make sure that your bees get enough carbohydrates going into the winter. And so when they bring that pollen in and increase, there'll be huge, strong colonies coming out. And that's the trick. That's what we do every year. We make sure we do our homework and we make sure that these bees are fed good in the fall and that they have adequate amount of honey stored. Therefore, we know we can feed all the pollen we want, because they'll increase, yes, but they got backup too. So remember that. It's a 2-way process there. You got to make sure you can do both. So that's basically it. Keep your hives tilted is another thing. If you can see here, I'm glad I thought of that. Keep that hive, you can see if I'm getting sunlight just right. Keep that hive tilted forward. Usually what I like to do is from level, go at least an inch, 1.5 inches up to 2 inches, facing towards the entrance. That way any water blows in, it'll roll back out, keeping moisture out of your hive. And water sitting in there, you do not want that. Make sure all your hives are tilted forward just a little bit. So if you do all that right there, you have give your bees the absolute best chance that they have to get through the winter. And that's what it takes. You got to do your homework and do your research and study up. And it's a beautiful fall day out here today. It's probably, it's got to be 70 degrees, or it sure feels like it. A lot of the bees are flying pretty good. They're feeding really good up here on the feeder. And we're just, there's some extra paper towels laying down there. You can see how those, they're half sheets and they tear apart and they work really good for these Nucs. So, folks, that's about it. Don't forget, I thank everybody for coming to our coffee bee chat. It done, like I said, I can't brag enough on the people that come. I was floored. I was impressed. It done really good. And don't forget about our online sale this week. A lot of people bought a bunch of those big blue feeders like I showed there at the start of the video. And a lot of stuff. They got some really, really good deals, and it'll help the new beekeeper out going into next year. Barnyardbees.com. if you want to check out online sellouts. But that's about it, folks. Don't forget, please help share our videos. Click on the little bell. Like and subscribe. Thanks for watching. Barnyard Bees.